The chair across from Joy. The lights in the studio were blinding. The stage floor was polished so clean. It reflected the outlines of every heel and boot that stepped onto it. Cameras moved silently across tracks. Producers whispered into earpieces, and a soft red glow flashed above the audience, reminding them when to applaud. It was the set of The View. Joy Behar adjusted the papers in her hands. She looked calm, but her fingers tapped the table with impatience. She was known for being bold, funny, sharp, and sometimes harsh. The audience expected it. This morning, they expected more than usual. Because Keanu Reeves was walking onto the set. As soon as the backstage door opened and he stepped through, the crowd clapped loudly. Not screaming, not wild, just warm. Keanu smiled gently, bowed slightly, and walked to the table with his usual quiet grace. He wore a dark gray suit, nothing flashy. His hair slightly tousled, his eyes tired, but kind. He took the seat next to Joy. She looked at him, smiled politely, and said, "Well, this is different." The great silent man of Hollywood here in a room full of women who talk for a living. The audience chuckled. Keanu smiled again. "I'll do my best," he said. But Joy didn't laugh. She leaned forward slightly, eyes sharper now. "Do you ever get tired of being worshipped for being silent?" Keanu blinked. The room shifted. Audience members looked at each other. He took a deep breath. "I don't see it as worship," he said softly. "I just try to stay present." Joy nodded, but her tone was more pointed now. "But you've made a career out of saying very little. Long stares, sad eyes, guns. Do you ever worry that if people really heard what you think, they might not clap as loud?" Some audience members gasped lightly. One of the co-hosts looked uncomfortable. Keanu didn't flinch. He looked down for a moment, as if searching for a memory. Then he said, "When I was a teenager, I stuttered. I avoided speaking whenever I could. People thought I was strange, cold, but I was just scared of getting stuck on a word." The room went quiet. "When I became an actor," he continued, "I learned to let silence carry meaning. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I had too much. And sometimes, words break things that silence can hold together." Joy raised an eyebrow. "That's poetic," she said. "But is it honest?" Keanu nodded. "Very." The co-host beside Joy leaned in. "Keanu, has there ever been a moment when you wished you'd spoken up? A time when silence didn't help?" Keanu's eyes flickered. For the first time, something inside him trembled. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Yes." Joy crossed her arms. "What happened?" Keanu's fingers curled around the edge of the table. He looked out into the audience. His voice was lower now. "There was a girl. Years ago, she worked behind the camera. During one of my first films, she brought me tea every morning and said the same thing, 'Remember to breathe.' I never knew why she said it, but it helped." He paused. "She had cancer. No one knew. Not even me. She kept it quiet. She died before the film ended. I found out the day of the wrap party." The room held its breath. "I never said thank you," Keanu whispered. "I never told her those words saved me." He looked at Joy now. "So yes, sometimes silence is a cage." Joy didn't speak. The co-host beside her placed a hand over her mouth. Even the camera crew stopped moving. Keanu leaned back slowly. "I'm not here to be worshipped," he said. "I'm here because stories saved me. And if mine helps someone else breathe, that's enough." The red applause sign blinked. But no one clapped. They didn't have to. After the segment ended, Keanu stood to leave. He thanked the co-hosts quietly. Even Joy. But just as he stepped off the stage, a young staff member slipped him a note. Folded paper. Small, almost torn at the edges. He opened it backstage. Inside was one sentence. She said, "Remember to breathe to me." To no name. No signature. Just those words. He looked around. No one seemed to notice him holding the paper. But something shifted in his chest. His hands trembled. This wasn't over. The girl, the one who saved him all those years ago, hadn't just helped him. She had touched others, and someone here still remembered her. The girl who remembered Keanu sat in the green room, quiet, holding the note in both hands. It was small, no more than a few words, but something about the handwriting tugged at him. He stared at the way the R curved, The space between the words, the slightly shaky line at the end. It wasn't rushed. It was careful. Like the person wanted to say something without being seen. She said, "Remember to breathe," to me. He looked up. Crew members passed outside the glass window. Assistants with clipboards. Camera guys with cables. Makeup artists. Grips. Producers. So many people. Any one of them could have written it. But Keanu knew this wasn't a joke. This wasn't for attention. This was something real. He stood up. Walked quietly through the hallway, past the stage entrance, past the break room, until he reached the back hallway where the production offices were. No one stopped him. He moved softly, respectfully, as he always did. In one of the side offices, a woman sat eating a sandwich, her headset off. She was mid-30s, glasses slipping down her nose, her bun slightly undone. She looked up as he passed, surprised. "Mr. Reeves." He smiled gently. "Hi. Do you know who might have left this?" He held out the note. She blinked. Read it. Then her face changed. Softened. Double quotes. "Oh," she said quietly. "That was probably Ava." "Ava," Keanu repeated. "She works in lighting," the woman said. "Not full-time. She's on call. Quiet. Kind of stays in the background." Keanu's heart beat faster. "Is she here today?" The woman nodded. "But she's usually up near the ceiling rig. I can text her, could you?" 20 minutes later, Keanu waited near the loading dock behind the studio. The air was cool. Clouds drifted across the sky slowly, like they had nowhere to be. The door creaked open. A girl stepped out. Younger than he expected. Early 20s. Her boots were scuffed. Her hoodie had paint stains. She wore a tool belt around her waist. And her eyes looked just like the girl from the film set long ago. Not the same color, but the same kindness. The same quiet strength. Keanu looked at her for a moment. Then said softly, "Ava." She nodded slowly. Her fingers fidgeted at her sides. "Did you leave this for me?" She looked down. Then up. Double quotes. "Yes." Double quotes. Keanu stepped closer, but gently. "How did you know her?" Ava's voice was quiet. "Her name was Becca. She was my aunt." Keanu froze. His chest tightened. Ava continued. "She worked behind the scenes. She loved it. She said the set made her feel alive. Said you were the only one who looked her in the eye when you said thank you." Keanu's throat closed. She helped me," he said. "More than she ever knew." Ava nodded. She said, "The same about you." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Ava pulled something from her back pocket. A photo. Old. Folded at the corners. It showed Becca sitting on a sandbag, laughing, holding a mug. Sunlight hit her face just right. She kept this taped to her mirror, Ava said. "After she passed, my mom gave it to me." Keanu took the photo gently. His hand trembled. "I remember this day," he whispered. "She had made extra tea. She handed me a cup and said, 'You look like you forgot how to breathe.'" Ava smiled softly. "She said that a lot. To everyone." Keanu blinked fast, trying to hold back tears. "She was right," he said. "I did forget." Ava stepped forward. "I just wanted you to know. You mattered to her." Keanu nodded. Double quotes. "And she mattered to me." Later that evening, he walked through Central Park. Alone. Holding the photo in his hand. The memory was sharp now. Becca single quotes S voice. Her laugh. The warmth she carried despite the sickness she never told him about. He had blamed himself for years. For not noticing. For not saying thank you. But now, her niece had shown up. Not to blame him. Not to shame him. But to heal him. The world worked in strange ways. Soft ways. Ways that didn't shout. He sat on a bench beneath a tree and looked up at the clouds. Then whispered, "Thank you, Becca." Back at the studio, Ava sat near the lighting board. She looked at the empty teacup in her hand, then smiled, because she had seen something shift in his face today. Something soften, and she knew her aunt would be proud. In a small village, a cat named Whiskers discovered a magic fish in a pond. The fish promised 3 wishes in exchange for its freedom. Whiskers wished for endless fish, a cozy bed, and a bell that rang softly. The fish granted all 3 wishes, and swam away, leaving Whiskers content and purring in the sun. Joy's quiet message. Next morning, Keanu woke early. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept drifting back to Ava, to the letter, to Becca. He wasn't used to the past knocking on his door twice in one day. But something else played in his head, too. Joy's question, the way she had asked it. Not like a journalist, not like a talk show host trying to stir drama, but like someone testing the water of a deeper wound. Like she needed him to answer, not for the audience but for her. Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that there was more behind it. And he was right. At 10:06 a.m., his phone buzzed. A text from a number he didn't recognize. "Hi, it's Joy. If you're still in town, would you meet me for coffee alone?" No cameras. Keanu stared at the message. He thought for a long moment, then typed back, "Yes." They met at a small cafe on the Upper West Side. Joy was already there, seated in the far corner, wearing sunglasses and a scarf despite the cloudy sky. Keanu entered quietly. He wore a beanie, an old coat just enough to disappear. As soon as he sat down, Joy lowered her sunglasses. She looked different, not louder than the room, quieter than herself. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. Keanu nodded. "You okay?" Joy looked down at her coffee. "I've been asking questions on TV for over 20 years, she said, some real, some not. But yesterday, that question I asked you about being worshipped for your silence, that wasn't about you." Keanu leaned forward, listening. "It was about me," she admitted, "and about my daughter." Keanu's eyes softened. Joy's fingers trembled slightly as she gripped her cup. "She's 28 now, but when she was a teenager, she stopped talking to me. For 2 years, full silence, not one word." Keanu said nothing. He just waited. "I didn't know what I did wrong," Joy continued. "I tried jokes, gifts, therapy. Nothing worked. One day I yelled at her and said, 'What are you punishing me for?' She looked at me and said, 'You never listened when I did speak.'" Her voice cracked. "That broke something in me." Keanu's breath caught in his throat. Joy wiped her eye quickly. "So when I saw you on the show, so calm, so respected for your stillness, it reminded me of her. And I think I got jealous." Keanu didn't speak. He let her sit in the silence. It stretched between them, not heavy, not awkward, but healing. Finally, he said, "What happened after that?" Joy exhaled. "We started again. Slowly. She writes me letters now. We're not perfect, but I read every word. I never miss one." Keanu smiled gently. "She's lucky to have you," he said. Joy looked up, surprised. "No one's ever said that to me." "Then they haven't seen you today," he replied. Outside the cafe, the sky had turned golden. Joy walked with him a few steps, then stopped. "When the show airs next week, they'll cut most of what you said." Keanu nodded. "But they won't cut your eyes," she added. "What do you mean?" "The way you looked at me when I asked the question. It wasn't anger, it was recognition. The audience will feel that." Keanu offered a small bow. "Then maybe it'll help someone breathe." Later that evening, Keanu sat alone in his hotel room. He opened his notebook. On a clean page, he wrote, "Not every harsh voice wants to harm. Some are echoes waiting for peace." He closed the book and smiled, because he didn't need to change the world. He just needed to be present in the rooms where healing could begin. The chair again. 3 days later, Keanu stood in front of the same studio doors. The same hallway, the same polished floor that had reflected his footsteps just days before. This time, it felt different. Not heavier. Not lighter. Just deeper. He had agreed to return to the View, not to promote a movie, not to talk about Hollywood, but for something else. Something Joy had whispered to him as they left the cafe. "I want to ask you a different question," she had said. "Not as a host, as a mother." Keanu had paused. "Live?" he asked. "Live," she replied. And now, he was back, waiting quietly in the wings. On stage, the audience buzzed with energy. The music played louder than usual. The lights flickered. The producers wanted ratings. They knew this was special. The segment was called "Listening Without Defense." A rare change from their usual tone. Keanu stepped out slowly as the crowd applauded again. But this time, he didn't smile. His face was calm, thoughtful. He took the seat across from Joy. Just like last time. The co-hosts greeted him warmly. But then they stepped back. They weren't going to speak. This moment belonged to him and Joy. Joy leaned in. Her voice was quiet but clear. Last time you were here, I asked if your silence ever hid anything. Keanu nodded gently. Today, she continued, I want to ask something else. She paused, then looked straight at him. How do you forgive someone who never asked to be forgiven? The audience fell into complete stillness. Keanu single quotes eyes didn't blink. The questions sliced through the air, not with cruelty, but with rawness. He looked down at his hands. Then said, you don't start with them. Joy watched him carefully. You start with you. He said. A soft murmur moved through the audience. When someone hurts us and never says sorry, it builds a wall. Sometimes we keep standing in front of that wall, waiting for them to return, with bricks to fix it, but they never do, and we stay trapped. Joy swallowed hard. Keanu went on. Forgiveness isn't a gift for them. It's a way out for us. We say, I won't carry your silence anymore. And we walk. Joy's lips parted slightly, but she didn't interrupt. Keanu's voice dropped. Lower. I had a friend, he said. He left in the middle of my hardest year. No explanation. Just vanished. I waited for his apology for years. It never came. The room leaned in closer. One day, I wrote him a letter, not to send, just to say everything I needed to say. I folded it, burned it, and walked away. Joy whispered, did it work? Keanu looked at her. I slept through the night for the first time in years. A single tear rolled down Joy's cheek. I asked because I think my daughter still carries something I did, and she won't talk about it. I don't know what it is, and she won't tell me. Keanu nodded. Sometimes we heal by listening, even if the words never come. After the segment, the crowd rose to their feet in a quiet standing ovation. No wild cheers. Just the soft sound of hands meeting, heart to heart. The segment would air unedited. Joy made sure of it. As Keanu stepped backstage, one of the assistants caught up to him. Double quotes, sir, she said breathlessly. You have a visitor. Keanu turned. It was Ava. Becca, single quotes, niece. Again. This time, she held something wrapped in brown paper. I wanted to give you this, she said. Keanu opened it slowly. Inside was an old cassette tape. Written on the label, Set Life, Day 14, Becca. To Keanu looked up, stunned. She recorded herself. He asked. Ava nodded. She recorded everything. We just found it last week, in the silence of his hotel room that night. Keanu played the tape. Becca, single quotes, voice came through, warm and soft. If you're listening to this, it means I'm not around anymore, she began. His hand trembled. But I wanted to say thank you for the way you looked at me when I said something small, for never brushing off my words. You helped me feel visible. A long pause. And if someday you feel too quiet, remember silence isn't empty. It holds everything. Keanu closed his eyes. Breathed. Just like she had taught him. The friend who disappeared. The train ride was quiet. Keanu sat by the window, his eyes fixed on the trees rushing past. The cassette tape still echoed in his mind. Becca's voice, her warmth, her clarity. But something else stirred inside him now. Someone else. An unfinished chapter. His name was Elliot. They had been friends years ago. Not movie friends, not red carpet friends. Real friends. They met long before fame. In a tiny acting workshop with creaky floors and bad coffee, they used to trade scripts, sleep on each other's couches, and talk about dreams neither of them fully believed in. But after Keanu's rise, Elliot pulled away. Slowly at first. Then all at once. No calls. No messages. Just silence. Keanu had wondered for years what he had done. And now, after everything with Joy, Ava, and Becca, he decided to stop wondering. He decided to knock. The old neighborhood hadn't changed much. Same cracked sidewalk. Same bookstore on the corner. Same diner that smelled like burnt toast. Keanu stood in front of Elliot's apartment building. His fingers hesitated near the buzzer. He didn't know what he was expecting. Anger, regret, a cold shoulder. Finally, he pressed the button. A moment later, a voice came through. Hello? Keanu spoke softly. Hey, it's me. A pause, longer than expected. Then, you really came. Elliot opened the door slowly. He looked older, not in a tired way. Just a lived in. His beard was gray around the edges, his eyes a little deeper. "You want coffee?" Elliot asked. Keanu nodded. They sat in the kitchen. No small talk. No fake smiles. Just two men with years between them. Finally, Elliot spoke. "I wasn't mad at you, you know." Keanu looked up. "Could have fooled me." Elliot chuckled. "But it was hollow. I was ashamed." Keanu frowned. "Of what?" "Of me." Elliot stared at his hands. "You kept rising, doing good work, being kind, being you, and I stayed in place. I hated how I felt, jealous, small, so I did the coward's thing. I disappeared." Keanu said nothing. He just listened. "I told myself you didn't notice, that it didn't matter." Keanu leaned forward, his voice gentle. "I noticed." Elliot's eyes welled up. "I'm sorry." Silence settled between them, but this time, it wasn't sharp. It was soft. Like a breath held, then released. Keanu nodded. "I'm not here to change the past," he said. "I'm here because the silence felt heavier than the memory." Elliot looked at him. Then laughed softly. "That's so you." Keanu smiled. They talked for hours. Not about fame. Not about regret. Just life. Music. Books. Grief. Love. The things that live in the spaces between sentences. Before he left, Elliot walked him to the door. "You ever think silence can heal?" he asked. Keanu nodded. "Yes, but only when it's shared." They hugged, not long. But long enough. On the flight back, Keanu watched the clouds drift below the plane. A young girl across the aisle stared at him curiously. He smiled and waved. She waved back. A small act. A quiet moment, but it reminded him connection doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's just showing up. That night, he sat on his hotel bed, opened his notebook again, and wrote. "Some friendships fade like songs on the radio, but every once in a while you hear the melody again, and it still knows your name." The girl with the quiet voice. It had been 3 weeks since the last broadcast. Keanu hadn't returned to the studio. He didn't need to. The episode had aired in full, without edits. Viewers called it the most silent interview in television history and one of the most moving. But for Keanu, it wasn't about that. It was about what Joy did next. She sent him a short message, just a few words. "There's a small event. No cameras, no stage, just people. Would you come?" He didn't ask questions. He just said yes. The room was small. Folding chairs in a circle. A table with tea and paper cups. People of all kinds, young, old, loud, quiet, were seated in silence. It was a gathering for those healing through estrangement. People who hadn't spoken to loved ones in years. Some still waiting, some grieving. Some in between. Joy sat in the back. Keanu entered quietly and nodded. He didn't take a seat in the center. He chose the far side, next to a teenage girl with a braid and nervous hands. Her fingers tapped against her jeans like she was trying to keep a rhythm only she could hear. The facilitator welcomed everyone. "We don't need to solve anything," she said softly. "We just need to be present." People began to speak. One by one. Some shared stories. Some shared tears. Some said nothing at all. Then the girl next to Keanu cleared her throat. Everyone turned gently toward her. She was no older than 15. "My name's Emily," she said. Her voice was soft. Barely a whisper. "My mom left when I was 6. I wrote her letters every year. Never got one back." The room held still. "Last month, I stopped writing." A pause. "But I still wait." Her eyes glistened. "I just want someone to hear me, even if they're not her." She glanced at Keanu. Then down at her hands. He didn't speak. He just reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Becca single quotes S letter. He placed it gently on the floor between them. "This helped me once," he said quietly. "Maybe it can help you too." Emily looked at it, confused. "It's not mine," she whispered. "It wasn't mine either," Keanu replied. Silence. And then, for the first time that night, she smiled. Just slightly. Just enough. After the gathering, Joy walked over. She looked at Emily. "You were very brave," she said. Emily shrugged. "I was just tired of being quiet." Keanu smiled. "Sometimes tired is the beginning of truth." Joy took his hand. "Thank you for coming." Keanu looked around the room. "I didn't come to speak," he said. "I came to listen." Later, Outside, under the streetlight, Emily followed him to the corner. "Mr. Reeves," she asked. He turned. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "What if she never writes back?" He thought for a long moment, then said, "Then you write. To yourself, every year. And one day, you'll open one of those letters and realize you were never alone." She nodded slowly and walked away. Stronger, straighter, not loud, but heard. Keanu stood under the lamp, the light flickering above him like a heartbeat. He closed his eyes. The world was noisy again. Cars, chatter distant, sirens. But inside him quiet. Clear. Peaceful. He had not saved the world. He had not changed a nation. But he had sat with a stranger. Shared a silence and helped her carry it. And in doing so he carried less himself.